All right, wanted to move now to the government's defence announcement. Your colleague Andrew Hastie called it weak. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yes, it's a weak and terribly opaque announcement. This is an investment strategy that leaves far more questions about where the cuts to defence are lying than it does answers about where the actual investments are going to occur. This is a government that has now outlined some $80 billion worth of cuts or delays to different defence investments and programs since it came to office, that has shuffled money around without putting real priority on hard, critical investments in the short term. In this announcement this week, we saw that big figures were used, but then all of them pushed beyond the forward estimates of the budget, beyond the immediate scrutiny of any information about how or where the government is truthfully going to invest.
The government says that you should have started it all 10 years ago, of course. The opposition leader, Peter Dutton's already made it clear you'll trump their spending promise at the next election. You'll spend more than their projected 2.4% of GDP on defence. How much extra will you spend and what will you spend it on?
Well, Andrew, let me firstly deal. I heard Murray Watt sort of making these claims about the biggest increase in investment the country's ever seen under the Albanese government. It's just complete bunkum. Let's recall that when the Abbott government was elected, Australia's defence spending had sunk to its lowest level as a share of our economy since the 1930s, around 1.36% of GDP. And it was the decision of the Abbott government, implemented by Tony, Malcolm and Scott, to restore and build that up to 2% of GDP. So we oversaw the most significant increase in terms of Australia's defence spending since the Second World War. We restored it to credible levels that made the AUKUS decision possible, that made investment in new defence capability possible, and that actually have given our defence forces a chance to take some of the steps in restoring their capability and influence. But during that time, and it was very prescient to restore it at a period even before many of the tensions we're dealing with today were apparent, during that time, those tensions have become apparent. The need for more investment is clear.
And what would it be on? What would it be on from your point of view?
Strategies and commitments.
What would it be on? What should the extra spending be on?
I think there are clear... So there are clear short-term needs, and you can see many of the defence experts highlighting those short-term needs in relation to how you prepare a country like Australia to fight in a new technological age, such as with drone-based warfare, and how we can both fight and defend against those types of new, lower-cost but mass-manufactured type weaponry, and they're critical for us to consider in the mix. It's also important that we look at how we get the most out of all of our immediate acquisitions and capability that we have. I'm deeply concerned to see an apparent $1 billion plus cut in the Collins submarine life of type extension program. The government needs to be clear about how it is they have come to a conclusion that Collins life of type extension can be done for around $1 billion or more less than had been previously estimated. Does this mean they've abandoned any hope of putting Tomahawk missiles on the Collins and increasing its lethal capability? It's one thing to extend the life of those submarines, but there have also been very genuine ambitions to improve the lethality and combat capability of those submarines, and that should firmly still be on the agenda too.
Simon Birmingham, you've written to the Foreign Minister asking for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard to be listed as a terrorist organisation and for sanctions against Iran. What's the effect of that? What sort of sanctions would you like to see?
Iran is a rogue state and it should be treated as a rogue state. And Australia should be working in concert with the United States, EU and other democratic allies right around the world and all other partners who are willing to take steps in terms of isolating the Iranian economy as much as possible, targeting the Iranian leadership as much as possible, and particularly targeting the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And I give credit significantly to my colleague, Senator Claire Chandler, who led an inquiry more than a year ago now which called for the IRGC to be listed as a terrorist organisation. The coalition has been clear that we will support the government if they need to change Australia's laws to enable that to happen. The United States has already taken such steps, and other countries should do so, because the IRGC is a sponsor of terrorism. It does so through Hamas, through Hezbollah, has been doing so through support for the Houthi rebels, creating massive disruption to trade and the global economy, and it persecutes and oppresses its own people, which we've seen through the murder of Iranian women and girls, as well as any other dissidents within Iran.